Ladies and gentlemen, we are glad to be here, and it's an opportunity to meet with the Clerk of the General Assembly, Reverend Dr. Godwin Odonkor. Papa, Ufane, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
That's right. How was your flight to America?
Oh, it was quite smooth, and God brought me in safely. I've joined my stay so far, and that's it for now.
Wow, all right, good. We'll come back to you again. Again, we have our father, the first chairperson of this presbytery, that is Reverend Retired Herbert Anim Oppong. Papa, it's been a while.
Yes.
You're most welcome. How did you feel when you got an invitation to come to this session?
Well, it was exciting for me coming back home, as it were, to see old friends, to see colleagues, and all that. So it was a good feeling.
A good feeling, thank you. And then we have our lay representative to General Assembly, Professor Messrs. Mabel Asante. Mama, please, how are you?
I'm very fine.
Your comment about today's plenary session?
I think it's been very insightful, knowledgeable, and I know I learned a lot, especially the symposium, having, the two great leaders of the church sharing their ideas about the legacy that we, that our ancestors in PCG handed down to us, and that we should also be reflecting on what we are also going to hand down to the successive generations. That will be their heritage. So it's been good so far.
Wow, what a transition. For you to bring in the symposium, perhaps I may dwell much on the symposium. So let's go to the Clerk of the General Assembly. He did a presentation initially to introduce us into how the Basel missionaries came. I want to talk about the first part, the first group of people that came. Any knowledge of what really happened to the first group that came? Where did they settle?
Oh, right. Thank you very much. They set off they were sent by the Basel Mission, and they set off from Denmark, went through UK or London, Liverpool, I might say.
Liverpool, okay.
And then they have to come with their ship. And then they sailed to West Africa.
Okay.
And normally those days, the ships that move to West Africa will move from one country to the other. So they have to move all the way to Osu, just the landing beach behind the Osu castle. And so the four of them came, four first missionaries came to start work. And as you know, they did whatever, but could not win a single soul.
Really?
Unfortunately, they all died. And then another group came. But you see, the interest with the first group has to do with that young Osu boy, Dowona, who was, if you like, baptized there and called Frederick. So the name is Frederick Dowona. And the Osu people called all the Fredericks in Osu are known as Fitrike. That is the Ghana equivalent of Frederick. Fitrike, yes. And but he happens to be the son of a chief of Osu.
Oh.
He himself eventually became a chief. But he helped the missionaries.
Okay.
To settle in the castle. He moved around with them, doing the interpretation and so on, to meet the royals of Osu. And so he did quite a yeoman's job. What we want to do is to retell the story.
Retell the story.
Thankfully, the moderator has investigated, research into his background. We want to retell the story. And then in the Osu Chapel, we want to tell the story again. We have been in touch with the Dowona family. I have gone to meet them. And we are inviting, it's a big royal family at Osu. So we are inviting them to come and to listen or be part of that occasion. Then the most important thing is to put up a plaque with writings to restore, as it were, to restore Dowona back into the history of the Presbyterian Church of Ghana.
Wow, that is a good going back. Like you said, the analogy you gave about the long jump, going back and then you spring forward. So it's also good to correct history as well. we are grateful to God for that. Now, so we'll go back to the Reverend Herbert Anim Oppong. That if you listen to the story he gave about the 4 people that came and couldn't survive, what really made them unsuccessful? Is there any knowledge about that? What made them unsuccessful? Is it because God was not with them? Or did he know the terrain? Or what?
For me, their motivation was high. Their love for Christ was so deep. And they were compelled by the love of God to come.
That's right.
Because clearly, I know they knew that even traveling alone was a risk. In those days when you didn't have good ships, on boats, sitting on stormy sea for 6 months, that alone was something. But it did not deter them. They were not coming to sell or buy, but just to share. So for me, it was the deep love for Christ and his church that made them come.
So they came because of love, the love that they have for God and the mission of God. All right, thank you. So I may go back to the Reverend Dr. Ninoy Odonkor to continue from there. The 4 came, the 4 were unsuccessful, and then what happened afterwards?
Okay, so they realized that the mosquito effect was one of the reasons why they did not survive. So they all died from malaria and so on. But then they were also not very successful. Also because of the indigenous understanding and appreciation, or lack of appreciation, of the lives of the European merchants.
So do they have the love, but couldn't really?
Yes, they came. They had the love. They were compelled by love for Christ, and they came all right. But the circumstance, the social circumstance was not good. Then the physical terrain, I mean, the mosquitoes and other things also affected them. And that really caused them to all die. That was why when the next group was coming, the Basel missionaries sent a medical doctor to come with them and to help them overcome the malaria menace. Unfortunately, when they arrived, it was the doctor
who died.
I mean, yes, it was the doctor who died first. Yes.
So let me thank you very much for that exposition. Let me go to Professor Asante to ask. So what could push the people to still send additional people if the first 4 that came couldn't survive? What could really trigger them to bring more people to come and die, or what? What could push? What, in your opinion, what do you think might have led to that?
I think that it's, going back to what Reverend Anim Oppong just said, that their love for God, the love for the mission. And remember, the Basel mission was founded, around the time when I also read, I think it's the history from Papa Moderator, that the purists and then the pietists in Europe, right? That's the time that they became very active. And so, and having lived in Germany for some time, I know how the Germans and also how the Europeans are. Whenever they have a goal, a mission, they stay on course. They stay on course. So I can just imagine, young people, believers, they believe what they've been introduced to. And so their goal was to spread the gospel in Africa to people who are unsaved. Wow. Right. And so for me, it was this determination to spread the gospel and also the love for the mission. That's why they came. They came, the first team perished, all of them. And then the second team came, and I think only Andreas Rees survived out of the second. And then they even sent a third one, including the bride of Andreas Rees. And then I also read that, in 1840, I think the Basel mission was decided, they decided to even call off the whole mission because they felt that they were not getting anywhere. Right. And the people in Africa were not ready to be saved. Yeah, so I think determination And this word that we, it's in the theme, the persistence and perseverance. These are the key words that I think made them stay on course. Yeah.
Persistence in mission. Yes, I'll go back to Dr. Odonkor to once again ask the Noy family, the Frederick Noy family. Now, what do you think will be the long-term effect of we rewriting their story, history, of bringing them into the system? What will be the motivation for the next generation?
I think that it will be good to rewrite the history, to restate the facts, so that our generation and generations after us will come to recognize the role that indigenous people played in planting the gospel of Christ on our land. Otherwise, we will give everything to the Europeans. They did well, we must say, but without the involvement of the indigenous people, they wouldn't have been successful.
Wow. So I like that aspect as well, that yes, they wrote and we read what they wrote and we repeated that for the next generation. We want to write the people came, they were the indigenous community that also helped them. And lately, there's one thing that Presbyterian Church of Ghana is doing, and it's so amazing, trying to name chapel after individuals, naming halls after individuals. And this one, I would want the Reverend retired Herbert to comment on that. What do you think those coming after us will do when they see that, oh, this pastor baptized me, oh, this pastor blessed my marriage, and his name is on the plaque or ABC? What will be the motivation for the next generation on that, naming chapels and others after people we know?
I think such memorial stones or foundation stones, as we may call them, is one way of transmitting the heritage, the legacy that we have.
Wow.
Once later generation read, oh, so and so, in honor of so and so, in memorial of so and so. Definitely they will ask, who is this person? And then they will hear the story about that person.
Wow.
And they will be inspired. They will be, their commitment will be renewed. And it will urge them also to work hard, faithfully, serve the Lord and humanity, to carry on. So basically for me, it is a way of transmitting our heritage. It is a major sign in doing that.
Wow. It always tells a story. When you see the monument, a plaque, or a name somewhere, you would ask to be told. And so the story is untold and retold the untold stories are retold or told every moment. Now, we want to close this segment. Bicentennial. A word for the church and the world. Each one of us is going to spend about a minute to tell somebody about the bicentennial, the need for all of us to join hands. Any of us can start. Perhaps the Clerk of the General Assembly will set the ball rolling. Thank you. The Reverend
So thank you very
Dr.
much.
Nino Odonkor.
As you know, the Presbyterian Church of Ghana, we are in the celebratory mood now, preparing to celebrate the bicentennial of the church, which will happen ultimately in 2028. But we are celebrating this first to say thank you to God.
Thank you to God.
Thank you to God for the lives of our forebears, those who really planted the seed of Presbyterianism in our land. Thank you to God for all those who have come on the stage to play their part or roles in the life and ministry of the Presbyterian Church of Ghana. Thank you for the present generation. And then we want to look into the future, trusting that, look, this is the God who has brought us up to this point. Right. This God is ready, if we are faithful, to take us into the future, to grow the base of the church and to add more value to Presbyterianism in Ghana. God has done so much for the church, and through the church, God has done so much for the country. This is why we are proud. We are calling on the entire world, the whole world, to join us to celebrate the goodness of God and to look into the future of the church.
Wow. Wow. It's all about thanking God. Let's go to Professor Asante to also ask what her opinion is like.
I think it's great to be living at the time when we are preparing to celebrate the Bicentennial. It's great in the sense that at this point we learn so much about our past. We learn, the intangible and the tangible, tangible legacies that, were left behind for us. And even this part, the involvement of the indigenous input in the spreading of the gospel and also in the building of the church, I think this will make the young generation proud. Because they see that they are also involved. In most cases, we've been reading, we read a lot. You read that it's like almost everything, we are left out, right? And that it's like everything was done by the white man, right? So when I think that young people also learn about the input of the indigenous people, that even, you remember we were saying that Nana Odonkor advised Rees when he was going back, when he was recalled that they should bring black people.
That's right.
If they bring black people and they hear the message from them, perhaps they can change. Wow. And that is what it helped. Wow. Right, his mission. Otherwise, the whole mission wouldn't have survived. So I think the indigenous input is a great thing, and it's something that we should all learn. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much. It's something that we should learn. If the professor didn't bring that, I wouldn't have understood that she's a professor. Or the other, so you should learn. Thank you very much. Thanksgiving from the Clerk of General Assembly and the learning process as well. Let's now go to the Reverend retired Herbert Anim Oppong.
For me, I see every celebration as a time of pausing, looking back, learning, and then figuring out how to move into the future. So this 200 years celebration of the Presbyterian Church of Ghana, for me, is an opportunity to continue to build a church of choice. That moving into the next chapter of our lives, people will just choose that church. We will stay relevant. We will continue to be dynamic and missional, to the community. We serve God and become relevant to the community. So that is the excitement I have. Wow. That is what I look forward to as we celebrate. We are going to open a new chapter. And that new chapter, our determination, in accordance with our vision of building a Christ-centered church, must also build a church of choice.
Wow, sitting back, reflecting, building a church of choice. I said we were done, but Kutunse must end this discussion. So with this presentation, we want to appeal to members to support. We start with the Clerk of General Assembly. Okay. Your children are listening to you.
All right, so thank you very much. Before I go on to Kutunse, let me commend the leadership of the North American Australia Presbytery for the organization of the Presbytery. I mean, this day has been most excellent. Wow. Things have gone on very well, and I want to thank God so much for the leadership. Congratulations to all the leaders. Then again, talking about Kutunse. Kutunse is now on the front burner of the church's life. Yes. What's happening is that because of the celebration of the 200 years, we have decided to go in for 3 legacy projects. One has to do with the mission Agenda 2 million.
Agenda
that
2
is
million.
increasing the membership to 2 million. And the other has to do with planting of 1,000 churches. But the star legacy project is the Kuntunse thing. The Kuntunse land has been bought about 30 years ago.
30 years.
It has been there, preserved up to now. Now we are ready, under the leadership of the moderator, to really start the process. We have done everything. The drawings are ready. They have been passed by the assembly. We have identified, through competitive bidding, we have identified the contractor. We have signed the contract with the contractor. The contractor has moved on to the site, cleared the site, gotten himself ready to start doing the pegging and have the site office and so on there. It's now time for us to support the agenda by also raising our funds and giving out money to the church so that this project becomes a reality. But Kuntunse will become, at the end of it all, a wonderful conference center, a Presbyterian conference center, where we suspect that all general assemblies will take place now.
Wow.
With rooms beautifully adorned, everything will be in place for us. That is our own center. Then the groups of the church, national groups of the church, or any other church group, or perhaps even a church wanting a retreat or going for a national conference, will use Kuntunse.
Wow.
So Kuntunse will be a Presbyterian legacy project, a Presbyterian institution. The Presbyterian Center will be managed by Presbyterians, and what joy. What joy.
You know what? The way the discussion is going, we got to continue tomorrow. Thank you very much. We're privileged enough to have the Professor Mabel Asante, the lay rep to GSC. We got the Papa of the house, the General Assembly clerk, and that is a privilege to have him here. And then we have Reverend retired Herbert Anim Oppong. I want to thank you for joining this discussion today. We'll pause, and God willing, tomorrow we will continue from where you ended. Kuntunse will become the center of retreat, the center of discussion, the center of reflection, the center of growth.